Welcome to this Maidenhead Development Management Committee on Thursday the 17th of October 2024. My name is Councillor Sian Martin and I'm chairing this meeting. This meeting has been held in person and via Zoom and streamed live to the public on YouTube. I remind all attendees that participation in the meeting indicates consent to the audio and video being streamed live and acknowledgement that thereafter the meeting will continue to be available in the public domain. Firstly, it would be useful if all committee members and officers could introduce themselves so that the public are aware who is in the meeting and the role they're undertaking. So if I could start this way and go round.
Good evening. My name is Louise Reid and I am the Deputy Head of Planning.
Maria Vassiliou, Senior Planning Officer.
Councillor Jeff Hill, and I'm a voting member of the panel.
Councillor Helen Taylor, voting member of the panel.
Councillor Maureen Hunt, voting member of the panel.
Councillor Leah Walters, member of the panel and a voting member.
Councillor Gert Singh, voting member of the panel.
Councillor Mandy Brown, voting member of the panel.
Councillor Gary Reeves, councillor for Cox Green Ward and voting member of the panel.
Councillor Jack Douglas, voting member of the panel.
Mikey Lloyd, Democratic Services Officer and clerk to the committee.
And online we have Helen Stevenson as well. So just acknowledge that. I request that the meeting participants do not speak unless I specifically invite you to do so. Once I have invited you to speak, before you do so, please state your name and capacity in which you are speaking if appropriate. I will also ask officers to speak at appropriate times. If any individual attempts to disrupt the meeting, I am able to use my powers in the Constitution to adjourn the meeting or have the individual removed. We will now start on the agenda items. Firstly, do we have any apologies for absence?
No, Chair, no apologies for absence this evening.
Thank you. And do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Reeves.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I actually did go down of my own volition to attend the opening of Padel tennis because I was quite interested in what it was offering and just interested generally in that, being an avid tennis player. So I wanted to see the difference. So whilst I was there, I did actually meet the proprietor, the owner, Phil, and played some paddle tennis with a couple of other councillors that were present as well. But I come here completely with an open mind to this particular application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. Councillor Hill, you had your finger on the bottom.
Thank you, Chairman, and similarly to Councillor Reeves, I attended the opening of paddle tennis and met some of the players, had a go, not very impressive, but I come to this evening's meeting with an open mind. Thank you very much.
Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Likewise, I've visited the site and yeah, I come here with an open mind. Thank you.
Councillor Hunt.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I have visited the site as well, and I have spoken with one wheelchair user who isn't present here, and the owner. So, because I hadn't been on site before, I hadn't seen it, and I needed to know what it was about before entering this meeting, and I come with an open mind.
Thank you. Councillor Douglas. Just a minute, Councillor Walters. Councillor Douglas was just before you. I'll come to you in a minute.
Thank you, Lou. That's very kind of you to give way. Yes, so similar to other councillors here, I was invited to, I think, the opening in my capacity as Cabinet Member for Community and Leisure, but I'm here with an open mind.
Thank you. Councillor Walters.
Thank you, Chairman. I played paddle tennis years ago, Chairman. I don't think I have to declare an interest, do I?
I don't think so. But thank you anyway. That brings me on to agenda item number 3, which is to approve the minutes of the meeting. Are we happy to do so? And that's from the 19th of September 2024. Agreed. Thank you. And that brings me on to the next agenda item, which is the application Padel Pavilion at Braywick Park on Braywick Road. So if I could hand over to Maria to present that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The proposed development comprises 2 application sites within the grounds of Braywick Park. These sites can be seen within the location plan on screen. The westernmost site comprises an existing building with paddle courts to the rear and a car park to the front. The easternmost site was added to include works for the reinstatement of existing land located to the rear Forest Bridge School within Braywick Sports Grounds for the provision of an additional playing pitch area. The application was originally submitted seeking the construction of 7 external paddle courts and associated infrastructure, astroturf surfacing and boundary fencing, together with the demolition of the existing garage and facade changes to the existing building for the construction of an internal paddle courts. The original proposal included covers over 3 of the 7 external courts with a max height of 9 meters. During the course of the application, the covers were removed from the proposal to overcome the greenbelt concerns identified. The amended scheme shown on the slide was later approved by the committee. The current application seeks to amend the design of the 6 external paddle courts by converting them into an all-weather pitches and introducing barred canopy roof. Furthermore, the application seeks to rearrange the layout of the proposed paddle show courts. The proposed layout can be seen on screen. This slide shows the cross-section of the proposed covers with an overall height of 10.45 meters. This slide shows indicative images of the proposed covers. These photographs show the rear and side of the application site where the approved external courts have been constructed. This photograph shows the views from the eastern side of Braywick Park with the application site to the right and the football grounds to the left. Finally, this photograph shows the views from the application site towards Forest Bridge School, where you can see all the differences in height within the vicinity. In summary, the introduction of the canopy of the courts by reason of its scale, height and form will fail to preserve the openness of the green belts and will conflict with the purposes of including land within it. As such, the proposal will be considered to constitute inappropriate development within the green belts. No very special circumstances or other benefits have been identified that will clearly outweigh the harm to the green belts by reason of inappropriateness, which is afforded substantial weight. The application is therefore recommended for refusal for the reasons noted within section 13 of the committee report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Maria. Before I open up this to the floor, we have one speaker, and that's Jack Binstead. So if you come to the desk to the front, and when you're ready, is it the right or left button this time?
It's one or the other.
One of the one.
I can just turn it on.
He can turn it on this end for you. And when you're ready, you've got 3 minutes. Thank you. You're live. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. My name is Jack Binstead. I'm a wheelchair paddle player at Padel Maidenhead, currently ranked GB #1. I'm here today to express my strong support for the proposed canopy over the paddle courts at Braywick Park. I recognise that this site is located on Greenbelt land. However, the landscape and visual impact assessment confirms that this proposal has negligible impact on the landscape and is consistent with other permitted developments in Braywick Park, which is already established as Maidenhead Sports Hub. Just as we've seen with other outdoor sports like swimming, moving forward to covered facilities is a logical progression to enhance access and participation. For wheelchair users like myself, very special circumstances are essential for safety and accessibility. Wet weather not only makes it dangerous for us to play due to slippery court surface, but also increases the risk of skin maceration and illness from prolonged exposure to moisture from sodden lap straps. This canopy will provide a safe all-weather space, ensuring a year-round access to the sport for all players. Padel Maidenhead has become a vital part of our community, welcoming many of the local school children, including those from special needs schools. This facility is particularly important following the closure of Sport Table, ensuring that Braywick Park remains a centre for inclusive sport. The canopy will help Padel Maidenhead become the first fully inclusive paddle club in the UK. The proposed canopy also enhances the future of competitive sports in the area. With the support of the Lawn Tennis Association, it would allow Padel Maidenhead to meet the requirements for hosting Grade 1 and 2 tournaments. This exciting development will elevate Maidenhead's profile as a sporting destination, attracting top-tier events that would deliver significant economic benefits to local businesses. Considering the rising concerns around mental health and physical inactivity, this canopy offers a safe, inclusive space for our community, helping to tackle issues like obesity and social isolation, including protection from UV rays to lower the risks of skin cancer.
1 minute remaining.
Not providing this facility would disproportionately affect those with disabilities, raising questions about the council's commitment to the public sector's equality duty under the Equality Act. Finally, this application meets the very special circumstances required for council approval of development in the Green Belt, through the accessibility, community and environmental benefits that far outweigh any minimal impact on the Green Belt's openness. In conclusion, this canopy is not just about infrastructure. It's about ensuring the equal access to sport and creating a facility that benefits everyone. I urge you to approve the application and allow Padel Maidenhead to continue serving as a vital and inclusive part of our community in much the same way that Bishop Stortford Tennis Club and Watford Football Club have been approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Bring us to the floor now. Jack's our only speaker. Councillor Walters.
Just to say, Madam Chairman, that there are very strong reservations by the planning officer. They recommend refusal because it's a very large structure. I mean, it's about over 45 feet high, and it is in the Green Belt, and it would be an obstruction. It would be against our Green Belt policy. Having said that, if it was not for the disabled people, I very much doubt whether we'd even contemplate what we're contemplating tonight. And I'd like to see how the rest of the panel vote, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walters. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chairman, for calling me to speak. And thank you for Jack for presenting our British #1 athlete, a wheelchair-bound athlete as well, a disabled athlete. For me, I'm very much with what Jack has said, the speaker. I think that this canopy is essential to, well, #1, to make it the premier facility for paddle tennis in the country, which would be a big leap forward and a huge feather in the cap of Maidenhead. And also, in losing Sports Table, which I was very sad to see go, as the speaker has said, for disabled athletes, it's a lot more risky to play in the wet and on damp surfaces, and he's highlighted the sort of injuries that they could incur. And this makes it a place where they can play, I would say, with, I would hope, a lot more confidence. And certainly the Lawn Tennis Association, I don't know what, there's something here about if it goes to Grade 1 or 2 status, and also it would have, we could have international tournaments there. So that would bring a lot of people in here, and this facility would be recognised, presumably, worldwide if we're having international tournaments. So it would actually pull a lot of people into Maidenhead, and one would hope a lot of business into Maidenhead. Certainly parking's not a problem because we have Vickers Way, that delightful car park very close to the sports centre, and parking in the Braywick Leisure Centre as well. So if we did have a lot of people there, it wouldn't be difficult to park. The Chamber of Commerce makes the point that you know, this would bring more business to Maidenhead. It would guarantee the future of the club and obviously guarantee the rent, or as far as possible, that the club pays to the borough. In terms of the canopy itself, it's pretty transparent, a little bit opaque, but you can still see through the site, and the indications are from the documents submitted by Padel Tennis that the canopy would effectively be sky coloured, you know, a light colour, so it would sort of blend into the sky as you look through it. And it's not completely stuck to the top. There's a space around it. I do believe there are special circumstances here, particularly because with the disabled players, and I want to see those people encouraged along with everybody else. When I visited, it was very much a community event. So there are people of all ages. So, you know, people very young and people older like myself, and people older than myself, which is gratifying to see. So I'm quite often the oldest one in the room. So in that sense, it's very much a social entity as well as a sporting entity. We have approved larger buildings on this site. There's the special needs school, which is at the back of the park, and also the leisure centre itself, which is a great big, large, opaque building used for similar activities, obviously more, and a bigger community facility. So I think this is a good thing to have on the site, and I'm a ward councillor there, and I would actually welcome it. So I'm going to move against officer recommendation, and I'm going to move approval and see what my other councillors say. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Can I go to Councillor Douglas next, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. We're trying to balance openness against very, very special circumstances in these green spaces, but so thanks very much, Jack, for your comments. They've really helped crystallise my own thoughts. I think about the effect of wet weather on disabled access and use of these courts. I might have this wrong, but I think maybe it's been raining most days for the last couple of months, or which is, I mean, I was going to say that's as far back as I can remember anyway. It just feels, yeah. Sometimes it's been really heavy, but most of the time it's just drizzle, isn't it? Just drizzle doesn't stop a keen paddle player, as I understand it, unless they're disabled. So, I mean, it's just the nature of our weather in this part of the country, that for significant periods, disabled users like Jack are going to be restricted to just the indoor court. And it's not like you can be sure at the time when you're booking the court whether it's going to be drizzling or not, can you? So, yeah, I mean, I think in practice we're talking about a very substantial barrier to disabled access. And these courts are otherwise ideal for disabled use. They've got special adaptations. So, I mean, I think for me, I think I personally identify this myself as on its own as very special circumstances, the disabled access. So I'm happy to second Councillor Hill's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Yeah, I'll just bring Mike in.
So just to clarify, obviously, so we do have a motion on the table, but can I just clarify, Councillor Hill, if you could expand on your reasonings for your motion of approval, please? Because at the moment I've only got approval. You need to obviously give the full reasons immediately after that, so I can at least write it down. Let me just turn it on for you. One moment.
Yeah, you turn it on. Just turn it off when you don't like what I say. My view, on this occasion, I disagree with the officers on the balance of opinion. I think there are special circumstances that apply, particularly in relation to the disabled athletes who we have seen playing on that court with the red surface. So it's a question of balance. The officer's view is that it causes substantial harm to the green belt. I believe it causes harm to the green belt, but not substantial harm. And I believe the amenity it provides to the town and the special circumstances with the disabled athletes in particular, and also the social amenity, the impact on mental health, because you know it's a very nice facility with which all age groups can go to. And that was the biggest thing that surprised me there, was just the cross-section of the community that was visiting this place. It was everybody from sort of junior school up to people who are retired like myself. So I think the special circumstance to apply and the amenity that it provides to the town and to the community outweigh the harm to the greenbelt. And I disagree that it's substantial harm. I believe it's harm, but I disagree that it's substantial harm. So that's where I am with it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think Louise wants to come in quickly on a couple of those points that Councillor Hill raised.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to start with the policies on Greenbelt, just to clarify the position on this. The starting point is if the development falls outside of the exclusions, which this one does, the starting point is development is inappropriate in the Greenbelt. If the development is inappropriate in the Greenbelt, you have to apply substantial weight. You're required by national legislation to apply substantial weight to that harm. That is a very high bar. So the terms used is not special circumstances, it's very special circumstances. There has to be exceptional special circumstances why we would allow a development in the Greenbelt that causes, by what the legislation states, is automatically substantial harm. So that's what needs to be kept in mind when you're coming to your decision this evening. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Louise. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, look, I've been listening to the sort of debate and balancing things off in my head. Where do I sit with this? Thank you to Speaker Jack for explaining about your involvement and use of the facilities. In some of the areas of planning law, planning is quite rigid. So in terms of the structure, the way it's been built, it's classed as a building in effect. In reality, when you look at it, it's just a canopy. It's just like one large umbrella sitting above the court. So we have to look at it sometimes with a little bit of common sense, and we still have to remain within policy and see if this is compliant. And take officer's point, the very special circumstances argument, it is important, but it's subjective as well. Now, the way I see it, the canopy is very much needed as part of a facility that we've already approved in the park. It's high, it's quite tall, but it's not the tallest building we've approved in the area. I mean, the Braywick is a sporting hub now. You go down there any day of the week. I mean, you've got hundreds of kids playing out there. You've got the Braywick Leisure Centre, huge structure, very successful. Not so long ago, I mean, Jeff's spoken about the school, and just around the corner, we have already set the precedent, because not so long ago, we approved a huge structure in the Greenbelt, which was the Desborough Bowls Club. The Bowls Club sits a lot taller than this. It's a lot bigger, it's a lot bulkier. And we already set the precedent, and it ticked the very special circumstances box, which is why we approved it. I've read the comments made by the Maidenhead District Chamber of Commerce. And it's quite interesting to see that they are commenting that this will draw users from beyond RBWM boundaries. We've got international seeded players here this evening. We've got a world-class facility there. It's a new sport, and in adding this addition of a canopy, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to future-proof this as a sporting hub in the town and the wider area. So I think on those on those bases, if I balance all of that out in my head, I think we do hit that bar of very, very special circumstances. The special needs children as well, that's also playing on my mind as well, because what we have as well across the road at Braywick House, we've got a school which has been recently approved for special needs children. And this would be a fantastic facility for them to use. So there is a changing nature of Braywick. So on all of those points in my head, I'm minded to agree with the motion that's been tabled this evening. That's all I've got to say at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. Councillor Hunt, please.
Yes, thank you. My ward is 92% greenbelt. So I'm very conscious of greenbelt and the very special circumstances needed to get anything through, quite frankly. I mean, if it moves, it doesn't go into my ward, put it that way. So when I looked at this and I met the people on site, which was very, very interesting to meet them, and I was surprised that the courts were full. The coffee bar was full. And it was a very pleasant surprise, I have to say. Now, moving forward, we've been told all sorts of things. We've been told that, you know, the government at the moment, we're all waiting for the budget because it's going to crucify pretty much all of us, taxes to the hilt, 40 billion, a black hole. We've also know the businesses in Maidenhead are struggling badly. Now, whether it's because there's no car park there or the car park there is not suitable for those who want to go into the town centre, or whether it's because of the climate that we now have. This is a facility that is going to help for the future. It's going to help mental health issues because there might be quite a lot of them. This is going to help people get out of the house and do something. Okay, tennis can do that, indoor tennis or indoor this or indoor that, but to actually get outside, even if it's raining, is a big, big bonus. And it does help mental health issues. The fact that it's for a lot of wheelchair users is amazing. I was so taken back and so impressed with the lady I spoke to, a young girl, who unfortunately, you know, was in a wheelchair. And I certainly could imagine and empathise how I would be if that was me. And anybody who has to overcome these difficulties needs all the help we can give, quite frankly. And for sports, this is ideal for them, but it does need to be covered. And that's one of the things. If you look at photograph 10 of 10 that was put on, you can see right through that netting, quite frankly. And a carport was mentioned at some point or other, could have been earlier on, as being a structure. But a car park doesn't have footprint. So we don't really look at it and say, oh, that's an addition, a big structure. The reasons you don't have a carport, you can't allow them, even in the greenbelt, is either the front of the building line or could be trees nearby, etc., etc. So that's, I think, a totally different thing as being a building. This you can see right through, and you're still going to be able to see right through it if it's raised. Now, from a distance, the roof line is going to just be a line, a semicircle line in the distance. It's only if you're on top and looking down that you'll be able to see the full impact of the roof. So I think, well, I believe that the very special circumstances certainly overcome any harm to the greenbelt. Thank you, and I fully support what Councillor Singh has been saying, you know, very, very interesting to read, and also my other councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Taylor, next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I remember when this came to panel originally, and it was so nice to have the Sports Able building being brought back into use. Sports Able was an amazing facility when it was open. It was a real community. They had bar areas, they would hire out rooms, people would meet there, and it was more than just sport. It was almost like I hate to sound a bit, you know, village hallish, like, you know, it was a community centre. People went there not just for sport, for, you know, companionship, to be social, and it was really sad when we lost Sports Able. So it was really fantastic when Padel showed an interest in the building, and we went through that process. I remember when we were at panel, you know, we were talking about the application, and one of the big things was that we noted that there would be no harm in the views over Braywick with this application. You know, the courts, it would all be open, and that was one of the big reasons why we were all so excited, and it went through. I do have concerns with this. The sheer size of the canopies, being at nearly a 3-storey house, is quite substantial. And I do also worry, and bear in mind I'm not up with all the details, rain very rarely goes straight down. It will go to the side. So I do worry how much protection it's going to give people. But the thing we often forget about, because we don't get a lot of it, is sun in this country. And we do all know that UV, harmful UV, can come through. It can be cloudy, it can be partly cloudy. It doesn't have to be sunny for that UV to be there. And I think I read a note about the UV in here, but that's something that we need, you know, to note as well. It's not just the rain. We get enough of that in this country. We're all aware of how bad the weather is, and the wind as well. It is UV that we can't see, so there needs to be protection on that. I mean, I haven't actually visited Padel tennis, I'm sorry, even though it is in my ward since it's been open. But I know when I was talking prior to the application coming in, I went down and had a visit, and they were so keen to make it friendly for everyone with various disabilities, and for it to be a fully accessible site for people to use. And I think, you know, from what I've seen and from what I've read, they've managed to do that very well, and we should commend them for it. I had my reservations, grave reservations about this application, probably right up to tonight, actually, to be honest. But I have to agree with most of what everybody else has said, in that it's such a unique facility. You know, we're not talking about, you know, even though I suppose the sport currently is niche, the level of interest in Padel tennis since the centre has opened has I've seen it talked about in places I've never seen sport talked about on social media. And that, again, should be commended to the people that run the centre, in that they've really brought Padel tennis to the attention of the borough and probably outside. And I'm very interested to read what having these canopies could lead that centre to, and how it could assist in the sport and in the borough as well. So whilst about 2 hours ago I was absolutely not in favour of this application, I absolutely, having heard testimony from Jack and having heard what other people have said, I do firmly believe that despite the fact that, you know, the officer's report, I don't believe enough weight has been given when it comes to the very special circumstances, and I would happily agree with Jeff and go for this application against officer's refusal.
Thank you, councillor Taylor. Councillor Reeves, please.
Thank you very much. I've been listening with avid interest into what everyone's been saying, and obviously it was a great presentation from the public speaker about what the needs are of people who are in the same circumstance, for example, need to use a wheelchair. And I totally understand that building in the Greenbelt already has a very high standard and a high bar to achieve, and it has to be very special circumstances to achieve that. And it's really about weighting. We've discussed, and I personally have discussed on previous applications within Greenbelt about the weighting that is given around certain circumstances. But when you look at this, I like to also refer back to the policy. We have to do things based on what we have to work to, which is the policy that of the MPPF particularly, and then also the local borough plans and what we're trying to achieve as a council. And I want to refer to a couple of things, very specific things around the weighting and very special circumstances. So under the MPPF, we have a section 96. And under section 96, which comes under the umbrella of promoting healthy and safe communities, it says that we're considering things under 96A to promote social interaction, including opportunities for meetings between people who might not otherwise come into contact with each other. For example, through mixed-use developments. Now, if I look at this facility that we have, surely that's the exact definition of what we have here, right? This is an opportunity to promote social interaction between people that wouldn't not always be able to get to meet with each other because of the issues around the environment that actually works against people with disability, works against people with wheelchairs because of inaccessibility. This facility has that in spades. They're able to access it, okay? Now, we talk about putting a canopy over, and yes, there is an indoor court. One indoor court. That one indoor court, if it was raining, would accommodate up to a maximum of 4 wheelchair users within that court. So therefore, we're restricting the number of wheelchair users to that facility during times when it's raining. We all know that there is a climate emergency and we have lots of issues with rain. It's consistently a problem that we have to combat, but even more so because we've heard about the issues that has, you know, with having traction on with the tires on wet surfaces. That can increase the risk of an injury to wheelchair users when they're outside. Also, if you're going to restrict them to only using the indoor one during rain, we're going against a national planning policy, which is to promote social interaction and opportunities to meet people who might not otherwise be in contact with each other. Well, exactly that. You're actually stopping them from interacting with able-bodied people who can go outside and play in the rain. That's by definition what we have to think about. That to me adds weight to a special circumstance. Okay, so that's one consideration. And it's safe. Another part of it is under section C, 96C, which says that, for example, those provisions of safe and accessible sports facilities. Again, it's not safe for them to go outside and use those sports facilities, so they're narrowed to only that one indoor court. We also, another part of it that I thought was quite interesting to look at as well is that we need to take into account and support the delivery of local strategies to improve health, social and cultural well-being for all sections of the community. Again, another thing that should support the need for what we're looking at here today. I genuinely think that we as a council, we have our disability forum, we've seen how much we're progressing and how inclusive we're being as a council. Why stop? Why not continue to grow and to expand on what offering we can have? So to me, that also adds another circumstance as well. Another one, and I only have two more, by the way, I promise, here. Another aspect is section 102 of the MPPF, which is open space and recreation. So it says quite clearly, access to a network of high quality open spaces and opportunities for sport and physical activity is important for the health and well-being of communities. It can deliver wide benefits, you know, support efforts. And the funny thing is, right at the end of this sentence is, and can deliver wider benefits for nature and support efforts to address climate change. Well, rain is climate change, surely, right? That's one of the key symptoms of what we're experiencing, is the huge amount of rain that we have to endure. You know, since records began, we've had the biggest amount of rainfall as well. So that, again, it's supporting that need to give people access and health and well-being, even during the issues of climate change. So to me, that also should have special weighting as well. And then to top all of that off, I thought, well, this is interesting as well, because under section 85, which is build a strong competitive economy, we've talked briefly about the economy. Planning policies and decisions should help create the conditions in which businesses can invest. They're investing, expand and adapt. They're expanding the facilities they can give to people, because they will be allowing people to do it under the cover. Significant, and the word significant weight should be placed on the need to support economic growth and productivity, in taking into account both local business needs and the wider opportunities for development. We should also seek to address potential barriers to investment, such as inadequate infrastructure. Well, that would be an inadequate infrastructure if we didn't put a roof over it and we couldn't provide for people to use it during the rain. If you add that to the fact that this will become, the LTA have said, you know, this is the first in the UK. It's going to put us on international, be able to have international and national tournaments because of the height, and it's very prescriptive about the height to meet the regulations and the needs for them to be able to cover all six. That's why they have to go a bit higher than the 9 meters that's required above the, you know, the distance above the playing net. So that brings in lots of economic benefit to this borough, with people traveling to here to go to those international tournaments. And so it meets all of these also requirements. So I think I've created like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 sections of the MPPF itself, that in which one of them says significant, the word significant. I think that's pretty case closed from my point of view on what is very special circumstances against the openness of the Greenbelt. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rees, and thank you for bringing your views and references to many policy points there. I have one more speaker, and that's Councillor Bra.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you. Listening to all my colleagues and speakers, I think this is the precedence from looking at the last application is part of the last application. And I think it, looking around Braywick, you know, the facilities is already a space for everybody to use, to communicate with everybody, and is a facility for, especially for disabled. And I don't think I'm very much protecting the Greenbelt. My ward, a lot of my ward is in Greenbelt, but this is, I feel, a special circumstances, and I think I'm not going to bore anybody with any more. It's all been said. I will support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Bra. Can I just bring Louise in? She wants to say a few words before we look at the motion.
Thank you, Chair. Really I want to just provide some clarity for members. I've heard lots of comments around the table tonight. What I would draw your attention to is, I think councillor Rees in particular raised parts of the MPPF. Yes, if I start with 96, the mixed use and communities, it refers to infrastructure, streets, mixed use development. So for example, mixing market dwellings with social rent dwellings so that they're pepper potted and tenure blind. That's how you get mixed communities. A single business use is not a mixed community in its own right. There are many businesses across the borough, and we wouldn't look at those as collectively they will provide an opportunity for communities to mix, but in singly, you know, it wouldn't be given any significant weight. Turning to 102, which is the inclusive as, I can't read my own writing here. Yes, what I would mention with 102 is there's no reference to the development being in the green belt. This policy is about sites that are not in the green belt, where they're white land, where they don't have those pressures. And turning to growth and productivity, yes, there's significant weight, but case law clearly shows that it doesn't outweigh the green belt policy. And I think the very fact that we are defending a public inquiry on a big commercial development that offers hundreds of jobs in the green belt is an example of that. And on a final point, I would say that however commendable this use is, and it really is, I think it's a fantastic use. It is a use for anybody. What it's designed to do is to be available, and it's been designed so that it facilitates access to disabled people. It's not a specialist disabled facility in its own right. But what it does do is that it's disability friendly. And that's not quite the same thing. We have many services in the borough that offer this and offer the opportunities there. However, in this case, the site is in the green belt. It's a substantial structure of over 10 metres high. That is substantial. And I understand, yes, that it would be light coloured, but it would be opaque. It wouldn't be see-through. And it indisputably would affect the open character. It would harm the openness of the green belt. And that in its own right, as far as the policy is concerned and established by case law, would be harm that's not overcome by the VSCs that are being put forward tonight. So I'm just advising you, obviously the decision sits with you, but in terms of VSCs, they have to be very specific, very unique to the site. And I heard the term precedent. Please keep in mind, members, that we consider each application on its own merits. There will be separate history. I looked at some of the cases that have been referred to this evening. They predate the updates to the MPPF. Things have moved on, things have changed. There's been more case law since those permissions were granted. So we have to look at this case on its own merits in the terms of that it's a fantastic facility, but it's not a specific disability facility. It's a facility that's disability friendly, like we have many other uses in the borough that are similar. So I hope that gives a little bit of clarity around this, if that helps. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Louise. We have a few more speakers since your thing. So the first one, Councillor Walters, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There couldn't be a better sort of case, you know, on the basis of disabled people. There really couldn't. And I have full sympathy with that case. But we're a planning committee. And what we say here has repercussions elsewhere. We have a plan, a local plan to defend. There are plenty of people out there who aren't in any way deserving like these people are here, the people who express their desires tonight. But we are a planning committee, we have that responsibility. This seems a small thing, frankly, it's a small beer in a way, in planning terms, yes. But people look at, they always, go to appeal. I don't know how many people here. I mean, Councillor Reeve he was talking to the crowd. He really was. He hadn't got any idea about the NPPF from what he said. He was completely inaccurate, as the planning officers pointed out. So if we're a planning committee, we've got to deal with planning matters. As a deserving case this is, we've had the officer's strong recommendation to refuse his application. As I say, they've got the facilities. They were designed originally for disabled people, and now they're asking for an extra. That's the way I look at it. And you can't get away. It's very difficult for me to say that. It would make me, I don't know what it would make me, but it is difficult for me to say and point that out. But there are other things in this one application. We're dealing this with one tonight, but there will be repercussions elsewhere, could be, if they wanted to use it, significant. So I'm not sure whether I don't know either a seconder in moving refusal, accepting officers' recommendations, but I would move officers' recommendations on planning grounds. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Councillor Taylor, please.
Thank you, Chair. My issue with all this is, and I don't disagree with the planning officer's reasons, according to planning policy, the minute you put a roof or a canopy on something, it is then seen in planning law as a building. So I understand where the arguments have come from, and as everybody knows, this is in my ward. I've been quite vocal about keeping the openness of Braywick Park, and especially this side of Braywick Park, bearing in mind the leisure centre is on the other side. So this side of Braywick Park is completely open. The Sports Able building is a one-storey building. But this is, as much as the law sees it as a building, it's not a building, it is a canopy. The sides are open, you can see through it. It's not, if you're standing at one end of Braywick Park, it's not going to obscure the view, it's not going to harm the openness of the view. And I think that there are times when a set legal view of something, it can be open to interpretation, because a canopy on a mesh fence, it's not a building, it's not a walled building, it's not something you can't see through. So this is where I have the conflict, and it is a big conflict, believe me, of the recommendations that have been made. And I can't agree with the weight that's been afforded to the arguments, knowing as much as I know on the views of Braywick Park, and knowing that it's not going to have the same effect as a three-storey building. It's common sense. And I just wanted to put my opinion across. Thank you.
Can I put Councillor Reeves, please?
Thank you very much. So there's just a couple of things. Obviously, Deputy Head of Planning, Louise, you've brought up in regard to the sections of the NPPF that I've quoted, and also a fellow councillor has also made an opinion about my awareness of the NPPF, and which I take a little bit of exception to, if I'm being honest. I actually quoted it word for word from the NPPF. And I don't know if that means that I don't have the knowledge or the ability and that I'm interpreting it. I'm not. I read it literally word for word from the NPPF. So, but we'll let that one go on this occasion. What I wanted to bring up also was that in the actual officer's report, under material planning considerations, there was the National Planning Policy Framework sections. Section 6, building a strong and competitive economy. Funnily enough, that was the section from which I actually quoted and utilised the reference to section 85. Section 8, promoting healthy and safe communities. Again, this is the officer citing that as a material planning consideration. That's where I derived my comments and my references to section 96, A and C, and also section 102. With the greatest respect about your interpretation of section 96 and that it doesn't have any bearing, the actual reference to section 96 does state planning policies and decisions should aim to achieve healthy, inclusive and safe places and beautiful buildings which promote social interaction, including opportunities for, so it actually is saying to achieve healthy and inclusive, we should be promoting social interaction. And it, for example, through mixed use, it does not state the type of facility that should be representing. There's absolutely nothing in the NPPF that states that it is of a particular type. It just says to promote social interaction, including opportunities for, and I'm not going to read it all out because people can go and actually read the NPPF, Councillor Walters, and actually see what I'm talking about in there. And then under C, enable and support healthy lifestyles, safe and accessible, and it also quotes sport facilities. And section 97 as well is also in there about plan positively for the provision and use of shared spaces. Sports venues is mentioned in the list as well. Look, I've expressed why I think there should be weighting given to these. The NPPF says that they should be considerations because we have to consider the whole of the NPPF. Those are the sections that I believe, in my mind, and my interpretation of it, actually do provide some form of guidance on how we should be considering this. Thank you.
Councillor Rees, I'll just bring in Louise quickly on your points.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Apologies if I caused any offence. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to clarify. What I want to pick up here is just to double check the sections that you believe, yeah, if you can run through which ones they are. I've got here, I believe it's, sorry, 96A,
96C,
85, 102.
I didn't talk about it, but I just mentioned it just then. Section 97A and section 97B.
97.
So, yeah, I can read that.
97A and 97B.
Correct, yeah. Delivering strategies to improve health, social and cultural well-being for sections.
So just pulling that together, those particular policies applied to this application. Yeah, it would then comprise the very special circumstances in conjunction with the information set out in the report. Yeah, that's fine. I understand better now.
I get what you're saying, the economic element on its own doesn't have enough weighting to counteract the green belt, but I was adding them all together. You know, they all add weight as a collective.
So it's what you'd call yeah, a combined there's another word for it.
Yes.
I know what you're saying.
Correct.
It's cumulative. That's the
it's a
word
cumulative weighting of
so when
all
you
of them.
have multiple things, they add up, and then it tops the weight up, and then it goes into weighting exercise onto the other side.
Correct.
Yeah, got
and
it.
that's why I presented so many elements of it. I know I took a bit of time to do that, but I thought it was worth doing it because they were all like there were a number of considerations that I had to take into account.
Okay,
so
that makes
appreciate
sense.
that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for clarifying that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you both. Can I go to Councillor Singh next, please?
Thank you, Chair. All I want to comment on is, Louise, look, thank you for the advice on the planning law and the case law. Look, no case law has been cited to us, so what we have to do is we have to really judge this on the debate and the documents that have been submitted. If there was case law that was pertinent to this application, it would have been helpful to have received that prior to the meeting. But anyway, even if we consider case law and what's going on around the country, I mean, I know there has been an application only last year of a crematorium in Hertfordshire, which was refused on these same grounds, that it was in the Greenbelt. That application went to appeal, and the inspector overturned the decision, and he ruled that in order for the Greenbelt openness argument, that the Greenbelt does not need to be entirely unchanged for development to be allowed. So what we have to think about is this application, it is unique. We have to judge it on its own merit, individual merit, as you've explained, and the spirit of the law. Now, the openness of the Greenbelt is, when you're thinking about the openness of the Greenbelt and the effect of the openness of the Greenbelt is big open lush fields, you know. This canopy, what's sitting right directly behind it is a building. Our borough own policies, and directly behind the building in the background, we've got policies in place at the moment that are approving 5, 6, 7, 8-story blocks of flats on the golf course, which will be directly in the sight line covered by this of this canopy. So I still maintain that this is a unique site. It's still got very, very special circumstances, and you know, we can debate this all night long, but on the ground, the ward councillors have indicated that they believe it satisfies the very special circumstances box, which is very helpful for us as a committee. And I think what we need to do is we need to really put this to the vote. We've been debating this for over an hour, Chair, and we just need to go ahead with this. Otherwise, we'll keep going around the houses. Thank you.
We've got one more speaker, Councillor Hunt, if you want to go ahead, and then we'll move over to the vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'm a little bit concerned. I've heard Councillor Reeves put forward, you know, very good arguments. The majority of people here, from what has gone on, are in favour of this application. And if we do go to the vote and it comes out that we are in favour, then it's up to our officer. Not for our officer to put forward. I mean, after 17.5 years, there's been questions about whether we're meant to know policy, and quite frankly, we're not. I know a lot of us do, but we're not meant to know policy. It's the professionals who do, and they're the ones who guide us. And if they get the inclination that we are in favour of a certain application, it's for the officer to support us. So I would like just to put that down, because that's an important way to go forward. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. I think it might be wise to go through a summary of what the motion we have on the table, just to clarify that Councillor Hill's
Yes, so I
happy
do
with this
have
motion.
a motion on the table. I did.
We're going to go to the vote. We're going to go vote, Leo. It'll be all night otherwise.
I'm just going to go through what I've got on my screen right now. I have written out a motion, which was obviously Councillor Hill's motion quite a while ago, to approve the application on the basis of provisions of safe disabled sport facilities and improved community amenity and mental health benefits achieved in very special circumstances necessary to outweigh the significant harm to the greenbelts. And obviously that was then seconded by Councillor Douglas. You have it? Yep.
Thank you. I'll just bring in Louise quickly, just before we go to the final vote on that motion.
Thank you, Chair. Before we move forward with the vote, can we just consider, we need to meet the test. If we're going to go with very special circumstances, I need to have identified the need that outweighs the harm to the greenbelt. So I just need a need. And secondly, if you are looking to vote on approving the application, if you'd like to give some thought to how you would like the conditions to be addressed, whether you'd like to delegate that to officers or put forward suggestions or a combination of both. Oh, sorry. The first point I was going to make is that we require a need test as part of the, if you allow development in the green belt. It comes under the very special circumstance requirement. So I just need, I need an identified need.
Excuse me, Chair, there is already a special circumstance.
Yeah, if I...
From here, what more special circumstance?
I'm not looking to debate it. It's just that I've noted down the points that Councillor Rees said, and what I'm looking here is to cover.
Can I bring Councillor Hill back in on that one, because it's your motion, so.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm a little disappointed to have to go through it again. I think the need was explained exceptionally well by Jack, our #1 British athlete, for disabled people, particularly in wheelchairs, to have a dry court, which I get.
Jeff.
Yeah, but
Hang on a second,
Yeah.
just let Councillor Hill finish first.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, the other side, so it's a sporting facility. It will, we need these facilities in the borough. We need them to grow and prosper, and putting the canopy on this facility will make it the very best in the country, and it will be an international class facility. So we will attract international sportsmen to Maidenhead. As well as that, we'll attract an audience, and we will benefit the borough commercially, because those people will, hopefully they will spend money in the town, and hopefully they will stay in hotels in the town if the tournaments go over several days, which I suspect they will. The need for the canopy is to take this facility from one where you can effectively only play in the sunshine, if we get any ever, to one where we can play throughout the year. So it expands the ability of players to play all year round, which is a good thing. If we want to talk about mental health, we've seen, some of us, how people of all ages and from all walks of life can go out and meet each other, and there is a need for that. We are human beings, we are social animals, and having social engagement keeps us out of the doctor's surgery, and it keeps us sane. So it's a very real need for people to have places to gather, speak, meet people, and have friendships. I think that's enough for now, from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Louise. You're happy with that? So they clarified the need there.
Yes, the needs a test, and I think you've given us sufficient there to be able to cover the test that we've got in front of us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Councillor Reeves, is your point? Can you be quick on that, and then we can go to the vote? Thank you.
The reason I wanted to just speak was I heard something that Louise mentioned in her previous comment, which is about conditions. And I just wanted to find out what she was trying to say about conditions. The main concern that I've always had with this is that it's by definition, by putting a roof or a canopy over something, it becomes a building. My main concern is that whether it could become a true building by the nature of granting this planning permission. Is there a condition that of the openness of the canopy that can be put upon it? It was just something you tweaked in my thoughts process when you mentioned conditions upon it, rather than it being a brick, like suddenly, oh, we can now put a whole brick walls around it and then completely enclose it because we've given planning permission on this basis. So,
did you want to come back on that one quickly?
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question.
Thank you, Chair. Essentially, you would be approving the building envelope. So for us to then condition it's not filled in, if it's already serving its purpose once constructed as a building.
Oh,
So
okay.
if then there's an application to come in at a later date to build a more solid structure, it would be material that the building's already there.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I mean, there's
Yes.
a degree of judgment, of course.
Yeah.
You know, it's not black and white,
Yeah.
but because there is already a building of that size on the site, albeit lightweight, it would be material should they come in with a more solid building further down the line.
Okay, thank you for that clarity.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll read out the motion once again. It is the same motion. Obviously, there wasn't anything added to that because it is still the key points that were hit there. So the motion in front of us, proposed by Councillor Hill, seconded by Councillor Douglas, is to approve the application on the basis that the provision of safe disabled sports facility and improved community amenity and mental health and social benefits achieve the very special circumstances necessary to outweigh the significant harm to the greenbelts. With that in mind, I will take a named vote whether councillors are for approving the application or refusal. Councillor Bra. Councillor Douglas. Councillor Hill. Councillor Hunt. Councillor Martin. Councillor Reeves. Councillor Singh. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Walters. All right, so that is 8 for, 1 abstention, Chair. The motion carries and application is approved.
Thank you, Mikey. So we only have one agenda item. If anyone in the public gallery wants to leave, you are welcome to do so now, but we only have one item, so it's entirely up to you. So I'll move on to, I'll wait for you to that brings me on to the final agenda item number 5, which is the planning appeals received. Are we happy to note those? Excellent. Thank you.